Hey, so heads up, this video is going to be kind of a podcast vibe. Not a lot of editing, but definitely, of course, rambling over a sped up recording of me drawing. So, yeah, my name's Vex, and I've been in the furry fandom for over 10 years. And I was asked to just kind of talk about my experience in the fandom, so I figured, yeah, this would be kind of a chill way to sort of do a video that doesn't require as much editing, and I get to kind of just ramble. So, yeah, before we get into things, disclaimer: if your experience is different, cool. If your time in the fandom was less than savory, or you didn't make friends, or everybody's experience is different. I'm just talking about mine. You do you, but don't try to turn that on me, basically. So, that being said, something else, I definitely thought that maybe I could do this without necessarily having to talk about other things, but I'm definitely going to some degree have to kind of touch on the fact that, yeah, I'm AFAB and I am black and in the fandom. And so I'm not going to go super into detail, just kind of going to talk about that because it, in one way or another, is part of my experience. It's part of who I am, so innately it's part of my experience. But I will say now that if you're coming here and you're sort of expecting me to talk about how terrible everything is, then you're actually in the wrong place. So, with that, let's get into it. So, yeah, June 24th, 2011 is when I got my, registered my Fur Affinity account. And I had been drawing furries before that moment. My big segue into the furry fandom was a game. I hesitated there because I'm not really sure. Like, I would consider it a game, uh, based on like what most standards are for a game, but it is technically a game. It's still up and running to this day, which is wild. It's definitely not nearly as active, but yeah, for Cadia, and I that was also my start into wanting to draw, and maybe take commissions, because I was on this website where people had these cool characters with this cool art, and I was like, man, I want cool art, but also, man, I ain't got no money. So, and stealing some random image off of the internet didn't fit my character. I had characters in my head that didn't just fit some like white wolf or black wolf or the very tailored characters that people shouldn't have been stealing in the first place. um and this was obviously well before the time of generated AI bullshit. So that wasn't an option. Your option was pay somebody, learn to draw, or steal some shit. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna learn to draw. And that was it. And I was locked in. So, however, my first few years of starting to learn to draw, I disliked my own art so much that I would scrape together what little change I could and commission anyone else if I could. Like, we're talking asking using my birthday money for commissions because I just hated the way I drew my own characters. So, yeah, that's sort of like a little bit of backstory without going like super into detail, and still not the full story, but that's fine. So, anyway, yeah, joined for Affinity, and it was pretty chill. I could honestly get at least one comment on a piece every time I post it, even though almost every time. So while it was like I was only getting like two faves or and maybe 30 views, hindsight, it was really nice that I was at least getting a couple of comments. Like, people don't talk about joining the fandom for the community part as much as they talk about, oh, I'm gonna draw furries for money. But that is something I will say is different, very different between a lot of other art communities, is, or at least it was when I joined, was that people were actively like looking for new artists, being willing to be like, hey, I see that some of your concepts are dope. They could see the vision of where you might be if you just kept practicing. And so I found a lot more encouragement than I did on like DeviantArt and Instagram. I feel like in the furry community, times are different now, but when I joined, it was really like open to new and starting artists versus people now might say like, oh, you know, people hate beginning artists, or like I said, in my other videos, there were times where I felt like that, just because I wasn't making money. But take money out of the picture, and I mean, I don't really see a more like supportive community. It's touched on every now and again by some big YouTubers, and I appreciate that fact, that the furry community is one of the biggest like appreciators of creators of all kinds, and especially artists. So, you know, not just in the money way, but in the, we literally have our own little society where we have money flowing in, money flowing out. We're passing around the same $2 to each other so that we can afford to go to the same cons or just hang out with each other in the same online spaces. Like, how's that not, I don't know, how's that not cool? So yeah, I would get like comments here and there. People would show up to my free art streams, and then slowly but surely I started gaining traction as an artist. And also, before I get to the next thing too, because I don't really know where else to like say or point this out, but there are people who have been supporting and vibing with me since 2013. If like that don't tell you that you're gonna find some of the most ride or die dope people. I don't like, man, I don't know what to say. And to, if one of you is out here watching my YouTube video right now, whether you've been vibing with me for 10 plus years or you've just found me in the last few months, thank you. I appreciate you. I wish that when I posted thank you posts that it could reach every single person on Twitter, or every, like, people be missing them. But like, I mean that shit, because all I ever wanted when I was a big glossy eyed baby watching Pokemon for the first time was to draw and have someone like my drawings. And now here I am. If baby me saw grown me today, they'd be like, damn, I'm depressed, but also kind of decent at drawing, so maybe it's worth continuing forward. But no, real talk, I feel like I found a space that, I mean, obviously I wanted to stay in. So with that as well, speaking of, when I joined the fandom, I didn't have a persona. I couldn't decide on my persona. I was someone that was trying to figure out like, what would I be? I didn't want to have 20 different characters that were all little pieces of me. I thought the idea of a genuine persona, like back when I joined, there was there were OCs and there were personas. True sona wasn't a fucking word. Like, if it works for you, it works for you, whatever. I don't personally see why we need 3 different words here. Because my OCs are innately all little pieces of me, but my fursona is me, is what I am personality wise, has a similar body type to me, as my gender to an extent. Like, there's some slight differences, and yes, there's some living vicariously through, but you know, I'm not 6 foot fucking tall. So my persona is not. Things like that. My persona is pretty much my build with some extras. All right, if you've seen my persona, you already know. So, but yeah, I also, no one knew what I looked like when I first joined. It wasn't my desire when I first joined the fandom was to be like known for my art first, more than anything. Like, who I was behind all of that was irrelevant. Like, do you like me as an artist? So I did not experience being written off for being AFAB or for being black because I didn't bring it up until later. And even when I did finally be like, oh, I think I'll share my face with the fandom, I'm not gonna share the picture because it's a hot ass mess. But the very first time I posted my face in the fandom was June 26th, 2012. 2012, kill me. 2012. 2012. And looking at the replies, like, all positive, all positive. So I ended up getting, I wish it actually stated how many comments. There we go. It's like 15 comments on this photo, and they're all just saying nice things, like, oh man, slay. Like, slay wasn't what we said back then, but along those lines, like, slay, you look good, just kind shit. So at this point, people were aware that I'm black and AFAB, and at the time when I joined the fandom, I just identified as just pure she her, and I didn't like shy away from letting that be known. And again, like, there was no, sorry about the Velcro sounds if y'all heard that. There was no weirdness about it. I didn't get hit on any more or less than if I was posting on my yearbook or even DeviantArt. Like, it was not some like super disproportionate treatment of like hitting on versus disregard or what. Like, the experience was just regular. There was nothing about it that was outlandish. So after that first selfie I posted, I continued to draw, and I then posted another selfie, and again, everyone was super chill, really kind. This time it got like 30 comments, so this is like August 26th. And honestly, I absolutely hated the way that I looked up until the age of 24, 25. So having people say nice things to me was very good. Like, I can definitely attribute a good chunk of me gaining confidence to being in the fandom. I came into this fandom not confident, not really sure of who I was and if I had the confidence to be who I wanted to be. And I found a community that is so accepting of who you are that I was able to slowly but surely start falling into the rhythms that felt like the proper melody of me, instead of vibing to a wavelength that I felt like I was supposed to. So like even now to this day, like some of you have already commented a few times that you find my voice somewhat enjoyable to listen to, and I spent a good chunk of my life hating my voice. So still to this day, I am super grateful. Like, I have more voice confidence because of y'all. I gained more body confidence. Like, I didn't feel so hideous. Like, maybe hideous is aggressive, but I shit you not, I did spend a good chunk of my life calling myself ugly. So yeah, that was really freeing. So at that point, I started posting pictures like every 5 or 6 months or so. And also, if you follow me on Twitter, you'll know that like once I did finally join Twitter, um I think I made my pinned post have my profile like a picture of me in it, and it's been that way for like the last, I don't know, 3 4 years. So it's not like I don't hide who I am. For the most part, people know, and yet I've still got a following. People still buy art. I don't, outside of maybe a few small instances that I'm just not like gonna get into, they don't outweigh the positive experiences that I've had. Um, and we might touch on that again later. But that being said, I don't remember when my first convention was exactly, but I went to Midwest Fur Fest, my very first convention. It was very near to me, and I went with a friend, and the experience was dope. People were really kind. I developed my first dancer fur crush, Leon. Shout out to you if you're watching this video, which is a whole wild story in and of itself, because he didn't even know I existed, and then later on we ended up like running into each other and we vibed, and now we're friends. And yeah, so that was cool. But so yeah, I went to MFF. It was dope. Everyone was like willing to give hugs. People were complimenting my outfit. Every con I go to, I get outfit compliments. Like, people are vibing. They are so like willing to just let you know like you're killing it, you're doing it. I bought my first badge. I think while I was there, I bought my first badge. I might be able to pull up the date on that. Hold up. Okay, so 2013, MFF 2013, that was my first Midwest Fur Fest. And from there, I would go 2014, 2015, basically up until whenever they started doing that room raffle shit. I'm not doing that. So that's when I tapped. And I started doing just FWA. But yeah, so about my like experience there, every con I've ever gone to has been pretty dope, like as far as the vibe and the crowds. And to be clear, I've never vended. Obviously my very first con, no one really knew who it was. Pretty sure it's 2013. I barely had, 2 or 3,000 followers, and I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't there as a vendor. None of these cons I've gone to as a vendor, so my interactions were very, I guess for lack of better word, ground level, like ground zero. You can't be like, oh well, of course, because you were famous and you had a fursuit. No, when I what? No, and I'm still not famous. Like, yeah, people notice me now, and that's still really like jarring. in a cool way, because for me, I'm just a dude, I'm just a cat that draws on the internet. But like, it's always super cool meeting people that like what I do and say really nice things. But yeah, no, when I first joined, I was like anybody else. Borderline no followers. Yeah, I gained a few, but my first con, no one knew who I was. But I was still like invited to come over and do karaoke and blah 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 and stuff, like, me being an outgoing person, I'm just willing to like go up and talk to people, go up and ask questions. So sometimes, if I'm being completely candid, I feel like the experiences people are having are less about other situations and more about the fact that maybe they're just not the most outgoing person that has now somehow ended up at a convention without a friend group. Like, I feel like this could end up being a whole video conversation in and of itself, but just know that my personality is very ENTJ, if you want the Myers-Briggs. I'm very outgoing. I haven't always been like this, but after joining the fandom and really coming out of my shell, I just, yeah, I ended up vibing. My first few cons as well, it's not like I went with a friend group. I did go solo, and then I met up with people. I don't think I roomed with anyone except once, and it was maybe 5 years ago. But yeah, that's accurate. Don't really do I don't really do roommates. Sometimes it sounds like a ton of fun, but I can't deal with snoring, and it does seem like half the population snores, and so the easiest thing for me to do is solo. So but yeah, so I mean, the experiences I've had have been good. I've never had anyone come up to me. I also, mind you, I don't have a fursuit. I don't have a fursuit. I still don't have a fursuit. So that's not contributing to anything either. So when you see me at a con, you see me. And people had no problem with, dancing with me out at the rave or whatever. Or I'd go up to people and be like, hey, get in this cipher, which is, the big dance circle, and I'd pull people in. I've made multiple friends like that. Or I just run up to people and be like, hey, like your outfit, killing it right now. And they'd be like, oh my God, I like yours too. And then we might sit and talk, or I might have to run off and go be somewhere else. But like, I've made a lot of friends, like friends that I don't know what in the world I would do without in this fandom. I've made them online, but I've definitely made them even more so in person, when I've gone to cons, and no one has really no one treated me to my feelings, like based on my experiences and whatever I was expecting out of a con. As someone without a fursuit, let me just say that too. So someone without a fursuit, and without being a vendor or a dealer or an artist alley person or what have you, I did start doing the floor wars and stuff like that. But that didn't start until 2015. So yeah, but my point being, no one really treated me different based off of me being AFAB or being black. It was just like, hey, this is a person that's dope to be around or not. And that's just that. Open and shut. I don't think I got invited to room parties until later down the line. And there were room parties that I'd get invited to that I didn't even necessarily want to go to, but I appreciated the invite. But I don't need room parties to have fun. I have my friend groups, and we go and we have a good time, or I'm hanging out with people on the floor, or I'm hanging out with people at panels. Like, me not getting invited to a room party is not the basis of how I judge my experience at a convention. And then I also want to address, like, has anyone ever gotten handsy? If I'm thinking, not anyone that I didn't want to. Again though, I think that's where my personality type is, a factor, because I my first few years in this fandom, and you can ask people who have been around me for years, people were like, oh man, Vex is mean, Vex is a bitch, like da da da. Like it's because I was very dry online and very to the fucking point, and people would take that as like, oh man, intimidation levels high. So uh I don't know if that was a factor. I also tended to stick with my groups of people, or um I don't know. I also don't really I don't know what makes that experience different for me than it really has been with others. I will also say I don't really drink outside of being in places that I'm comfortable with people, and I naturally keep about a foot to 2 feet between people I just meet. Like, I'm weird about even platonic touch with strangers. Like, I'll hug you if I like your vibe off rip, but then after that, prolonged contact is a nah. So, and I don't hug like literally everyone that comes up to me. Usually it's like oh hey, what's good, step back, a little space, okay. So I don't know what it's like as someone that doesn't have the peripheral vision to dodge something that can't, like, that might be able to get snuck up on from behind. Honestly, I can tell you now that one of my most negative experiences has not been at a furry convention. It was at an anime convention. It was at ASIN, and I think that was 2014, ASIN 2014. And I was literally picked up against my will and wandered off with. And it actually set the tone for me being kind of like worried when I went to it was either 2014 or 2013. It must have been 2013, because before I went to my first MFF, I was literally like, if someone fucking picks me up, I'm gonna lose my absolute fucking shit. And that didn't happen. And it has not happened. So that's not something I've had to deal with here. And, you know, I walk around with speakers playing music. Sometimes I know I'm enemy number one right now. But a lot of people do be vibing to it. And I play different types of music. I will play music, that's like hip hop and R&B, and I still be having people vibe with me, come over and dance with me. So my experience in this fandom has been majority good. And the negative experiences that I've had haven't been from the parties you usually hear about it being from. Let's just put it like that. My best friends are some of my best friends are gay men. And my friends come in all different shapes, sizes, and colors. And I will say that it's not like the majority of my friend group has the same amount or more melanin than me. So at the end of the day, my experiences both in this fandom and in life have been that there are going to sometimes be shitty experiences. You've got to make sure that you are actually weighing them out properly to the positive experiences, and also make sure that you are being fair in how you are viewing where they're coming from, because I can tell you now, no one is exempt from being a piece of shit. There is no demographic shield that exists that says, oh, I can't possibly problematic because I'm of this demographic. There isn't. So without this video being too much longer, yeah, my experience in the fandom has been overall dope. And I have gained from it friends I never want to lose, confidence I don't know if I otherwise would have had, art skills via the encouragement of the people in the community that I may have otherwise given up on, or at least tried to give up on. I tried to quit multiple times, but I do always come back to drawing because I just love it. But I think my mindset and my determination was amplified by being in this community. And yeah, I wouldn't still be here if it wasn't for the fact that I love a good chunk of everything it has to offer. And if I had to give anyone advice on making their experience a positive one in this fandom, is one, you don't have to go to a convention the moment you're damn 16 or 17. I didn't go to my first con until I was 20, something like that. And I didn't die. And I was probably better off for it. And you make sure that you have a couple of friends that can go with you the first time. And if you're not the most outgoing person, or if you're not the most extroverted person, then try to find somebody to be that for you and keep them close. Try to just stick by. I don't think wandering off on your own your first one or two cons is gonna be the best thing unless you're used to doing things like that, even outside of going to a convention. As far as making friends, because I get it, people will say like, oh, well, how do I make friends? I don't have a fursuit. I don't draw. Most of my friends that I've made in this fandom aren't artists. So, it's not about artists only clicking with artists and blah, blah, blah. It really is, are you fun to be around? So, find something that's authentically you, that you can be happy about and talk about and share or show off, whether it's your fashion sense, whether it's card tricks or jokes, or maybe you're damn good at beer pong. I made a friend over beer pong at a convention before, and we are still friends to this day. Like, there are so many ways to make friends. And then online, go into streams, hang out, vibe, see if you can make friends. If not with the streamer, then maybe with some of the people in the stream. There's so many opportunities and ways and places that you can make friends. And then from there, once you find your group, once you find your tribe, just vibe. I think people have this misconception that they have to be friends with absolutely everybody, and they have to be friends with all the people that they want to be friends with. And if such and such doesn't pay them attention, or if they don't get an invite to this particular room party, then it's a problem. And I just can't imagine going through life with motions like that. I'd be more sore than I already am. Knees, back, gone. I think, it's okay to focus on quality and not quantity. Because if you told me I could pull up at a convention today with 100 people, or my closest group of friends, and I just spend the con with my closest group of friends, and then like maybe we bring people into this group here and there or whatever, but I'm taking my closest group of friends. Let's go to the panels together. Let's go get pizza and walk around and shoot the shit, and then let's go to the dance comp and vibe out there. I don't know, but that's my experience as someone that is AFAB. I go by they them, as someone that's black, as someone that's pansexual, as someone that's an artist, as someone that's a dancer, as someone that doesn't have a fursuit, as someone that has never been a dealer, has never done artist alley. This is my experience, and every space is going to have its problematic people, whether that's anime, community, whether that's shit, that it could be your church. It does not mean that the bad apples speak for the whole fucking tree. And that's something I desperately wish more people could gain some perspective about and be more willing to admit. That person that turned you down at that one convention isn't the end all to be all, doesn't mean that your next convention won't be great. That person that made a snide remark about your tattoos or your makeup at the grocery store doesn't mean the whole damn grocery store hates people with tattoos or different makeup. Just giving y'all other examples. Or the time I went to an ice cream shop and someone did say something actually racist, but that customer does not mean that everyone felt that way. And that was proven by someone who overheard that being willing to say something about that being very not fucking okay. And you see that in this fandom. Yes, someone may have done something that was very out of pocket, very less than savory, and very not demure. And the moment you post about it, tell me you don't see hundreds, if not thousands of people willing to jump in and say, that's not okay. That's fucked up. I ride with you on that. So to have 1 or 5 or even 6 bad experiences, or to acknowledge that there are 10 or 20 or even 300 shitty people in any fandom or any place, but then not be able to acknowledge that that doesn't speak for the volumes of people who are not that, who are literally in your face, either following you as proof of vibing with you, or commenting and replying and retweeting and posting or what have you. Like, I just sometimes, man, I will say my biggest complaint with this fandom is people not being willing to have perspective, and people not extending the courtesy of the words, treat others as you want to be treated, as fully as it should be, as fully as it should be, regardless of color, regardless of age, regardless of orientation. No one can change the way that they were born. Literally no one.